We are covering a movie that's notorious even as Category 3 movies go. Not an action movie after I described how a Category 3 is action movie. And there is a lot of sexual situations in it. So Dr. Lamb is a true crime story, kind of, about a killer in Hong Kong in the early 80s who one summer he killed four women, ends up being captured by the police, and the movie is basically a story of his interrogation. This movie's from the early 90s, so spoiler alert, we're going to just talk all about it because it's been out for over 20 years, so you're not
Yeah,
going to
you
we're not
had your
going to
chance.
Yeah.
exactly. Except little different. So the
30
version
years.
that we watched, it can be found on pre-ordered on Earth Films, 2K restoration, and it has scenes that were cut from the original release. So
Ooh.
if you're gonna watch something like this, you might as well watch the uncut version.
That's right.
Uncut, baby.
So, Dr. Lamb and nipples, Blake. What are we gonna talk about?
Just get right into
Straight
it, huh?
to the nips.
Nips. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I'll let it slip. It's so I thought so. Multiple scenes with our. I mean, we're basically following the story of this like serial killer is like taxi cab driver picking up the women. I thought each scene with these women, as we're getting what he has done to each one, I thought all of them focused bizarrely on nipples and like nipple placement in the shot. And I hope
Yeah.
I'm not just a weirdo.
No, there's
Super nipped out.
No,
but,
you're
like,
right. No.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I feel very validated. So what did you think? What did you think? I mean, it made me super uncomfortable, like on multiple levels. So yeah, what did you think about that? Or when did you first notice it, I guess?
I'll be honest, I didn't notice the
Yeah,
You didn't notice the nipples? Wow.
I did not notice the nipples. I
trying
noticed
to
nipples,
think.
but I didn't notice the nipple fetish.
I mean,
Okay.
probably like the like second or third one where he's like
Yeah.
he like lays out. You just see how he like lays out the body like in the apartment, and it's like
That's what you see.
yeah, it's like a lot of like under tit shots going on.
Silhouettes of nipples and boobs.
Well, even when am I making this up? But I feel like maybe the first one or the second one, like when they're gonna get into the cab, like I feel like I was like, is she wearing a bra? Because I can,
Yeah.
like, I felt like I could literally
Yeah,
see.
she does have really.
I'm like, they put the
prominent
ice
nipples.
cubes on the nips,
What
like
I'm
before
saying,
they
man.
shot, like
Yeah.
on purpose. I think you're right.
And I don't really remember. A lot of it is told semi out of order.
Mhm.
Yes.
But there's like a severed tit at one point that they like
The jiggle-
have.
the
It's all
jiggle tit.
jiggly.
I love the
Yeah.
jiggle.
And it really focuses on it. So like obviously like they're playing up that this killer has a fixation on
That's what I thought.
boobs
That's what I
and
thought.
nipples.
And
Yeah.
talk
Crazy
about
thought.
tonal shifts. So this movie is ultra violent. Any kind of trigger warning, anything you could probably apply to this movie.
Yeah.
It also has weird moments of slapstick, like when they
Oh, yeah.
find the boob in a jar and it's flying around like Keystone
Yeah.
Cop style.
Yeah.
Honestly, just the whole like first bit of it where they're just like beating the shit out of this
Yeah.
dude.
It's hilarious.
It was
the
like
cops are slapstick as fuck. Yeah.
it was like weirdly like SCTV style skits with like cop procedural. It was
Yeah.
so weird. This
Yeah.
movie was so fucking weird.
It is
Yeah.
funny. And yeah, it's an exploitation film essentially.
Yeah,
so like
absolutely. Yeah.
which honestly do have a lot of humor in them a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Just
True.
it's really dark humor.
Yeah.
Right.
And this one is like, it's not really dark. Well, it is dark. It's
It
a
is
porn
dark
boob.
humor. Yeah.
Then you have a guy named what was his name? Fat Chan or something like that. Who literally
Oh,
breaks
yeah.
a
Fat
sweat
Bing.
while Fat Bing who breaks a sweat while
Fat
playing
Bing.
cards.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's so
Abroad.
mean to him. I love his shirt. I want his shirt.
Honestly, all the
He's
fashion
awesome.
in this.
Yeah, the fashion is great. Yeah.
Peak 92 Hong Kong. Yeah, it was great.
Oh yeah.
Love the guy in the red muscle shirt, really tight.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
It's
Yes.
all like Miami Vice kind of like.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. He would speak in Cantonese or Chinese unless he was cussing, and then it was in English.
And then it was in English. I know, it was incredible.
The
Just
times
amazing.
when people speak English in Chinese movies is always really interesting to me.
Yeah.
And in this case, it's only when he's cussing people out. It's really funny.
Yeah. I mean, English swear words are the best.
This is
It's
true.
like
You know-
Spanish around here, actually. People love doing that.
Do you think so? We talked about it being an exploitation movie, and it's unabashedly exploitative. Do you think it tried to be serious? Like, it seems like they were trying to do a backstory for him, and like they were trying to explain what was wrong with him. And then there's this kind of complicated storytelling device, like here's the modern world, and then but here's these flashbacks. It's almost like they wanted it to be a real story. But then there's all this ridiculousness and boobs getting cut and just violent, I mean, necrophilia. Like it's
Yeah.
really strange.
It's really art. I mean, it has those moments, and then yeah, it has like really like artful, like the shots and the way they're doing, like
It
pulling out all the
does.
stuff, like with the lighting when he's cutting up the bodies in his room, right? Like he's
Yeah,
in
it
his
looks
private
great.
sanctuary. It's like a beautiful. It's a kind of a beautiful film. You know, it might be weird to say about this, but I actually loved this movie
No,
quite a
yeah,
bit.
a lot of the honestly, both these movies were great to look at. Like, just lots of cool stuff, interesting stuff going on.
Yeah.
And I felt like theme-wise, like thematically, there was stuff that was serious going on too. Like, I mean, if you look at the treatment of the sort of like rookie female cop, and like everything that happens to her, like it's obviously drawing a parallel to like misogyny just in the world and like within the cops. I would say this is not a pro cop movie in any way.
Right. No,
Not at all.
not at all.
Like they're bumbling idiots, and also they're the same sort of misogynists. Maybe not the same, but they have the same misogyny that like
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
serial killer has, that you've been seeing him, murder and rape and do necrophilia and dismemberment and whatever.
And meanwhile, they're treating, like you said, the rookie female cop like crap, and they're beating this guy up for it.
Yeah, and it's my favorite. They're just like, we've tried everything. We've been beating him so much.
It's pretty funny.
And then
I love-
ultimately what makes him confess is that they just let his family in there to also beat the shit out of him.
Yes.
Which is
Well,
awesome.
and he's super drawn to the chief detective or whatever. Like he's very
He's like fixated on that guy.
fixated on him, and like he opens up to him, not to really anyone else. He wants to tell him his story. And I think correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that is the director, right? The director played a character in this movie.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah, that's him. Yeah.
I found that like really interesting as well, like, you know, like having
Some
like
meta.
I mean, I was thinking of obviously like Silence of the Lambs and shit, right, where it's like, okay, like Clarice, like you have to have that person that you're fixated and you have that relationship with.
Yeah. This is 90s when we're like all obsessed with the psychology.
Yes.
X-Files was
evil
hitting big,
killers,
man.
Yeah.
Everybody,
Yeah. So,
Seven.
I liked
Mhm.
that. Like I liked just like, and it's never explained, right? Unlike the other movie, which likes to over-explain, nothing in this movie is explained, right? We don't
Right.
know why anything. And there's like a moment, and I wish I remember the line, but he says something, and he talks about one of his kills, and then it cuts to the present, and one guy was like, "That's it." And like I love that, because for me, like that's kind of the central thesis of the movie, of like, oh, like just the banality of evil, right?
Yeah.
It's just very basic, it's very animal. There's no cool, awesome reason. We have this fixation on serial killers and true crime, and at the end of the day, it's meaningless. It means nothing.
Yeah.
It's not interesting. So I love that moment in there.
Yeah.
Right. So there's the tag. This brings to a great point, because I wanted to ask everybody this. So the tag for the movie on IMDb says, "An abnormal taxi driver lusts for blood every rainy night." Is that right? Does he only kill on rainy nights? I was like, is that
Man, I
even,
can't
right?
remember. I think it
I
is usually
know-
rainy.
The thunder makes him howl and shit. Like he gets all
was
horned up.
definitely
with
howling
thunder.
about-
He does get all animalistic.
Yeah. Well, and I know with the real case, I think they would call him the rainy day killer.
Oh, really?
With the
Okay.
real murderer, he seemed to strike during inclement weather, and I guess they just kind of drew the connection a little bit more in the movie.
Gotcha. Okay.
So.
I wonder how much that's out of like coincidence or whether he had planned it that much. Because
Right.
In the movie there, the one scene or the killing in the taxi
Mhm,
with the drunk lady, like that was, it was raining for that, but the
mhm.
others I don't real. Oh, I think he's
I'm trying
chasing
to
a girl.
remember, like, the one that he like spends a long time chasing after her. I can't remember if it's raining or not in that scene.
I think it might be the one he thinks is like innocent and like, oh,
Yeah,
you're,
innocent and
yeah.
Oh
pure.
yeah,
I
ooh,
think that
that was
one's
the
in the
worst
rain
one.
too.
I
That
hated
was
that
good,
one.
and it was the longest one. We had to sit with it for
Yeah,
the
god
longest
damn it.
time.
Yeah,
That
Yeah,
was
totally.
drawn out. That was one
yeah.
of those things where like it's, the movie's really exploitative and
Mhm,
gross and like it's obviously taking every single pot shot it can.
mhm,
But then that scene, you're like, wow, this is really cleverly done. It's like you mentioned, the lighting is really like the
mhm,
purples and the blues and the lavenders look really good in it. Like it's a
mhm.
really well shot movie. And I hate commenting on performances in foreign movies because I don't know. I don't really know if it's good or not. Like, I could tell they're emoting well, but man, and I forget the killer's name, but his performance was
He's
really,
so
really
good.
captivating. Super
Yeah.
He's
captivating.
got the baby face, right? He's got the baby
Mhm.
face. He's very, yeah. He is such an interesting character, and I think that actor played him really well.
Yeah, and especially like, yeah, the scene with the last victim where you kind of slowly see her become more uncomfortable with him and then
Mhm.
get to the point
Yeah.
where she knows she needs to run away from him, but it's kind of too late. I'm a huge sucker for those kind of scenes, and
Yeah.
it pulls it off really, really well.
And she tries to go to that one police station and further cementing the uselessness of the
Yes.
cops. Like no one
Yeah.
even fucking answers, right? She's
Yeah,
at the
the
police
law is
station, no one answers.
completely worthless.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was a fun, I say fun. It was neat to see this kind of serial killer because I'm tired of seeing like Ted Bundy and the Night Stalker and people trying to explain like, oh wow, here's why Ted Bundy is so charismatic. It's like I don't want to hear about that anymore. Like I just want to see this movie about a serial killer who's disgusting and gross and
Yeah.
like that's it. I don't want to hear about
Yeah.
how cool Ted Bundy was anymore.
Yeah, I feel like Ted Bundy is like extremely overrated as like a story because like, yeah, I think people just thought he was charismatic because he was really handsome. Like
mhm.
it's easy
Yeah.
to seem charismatic to people when they find you attractive,
Yeah.
as it turns out.
Yeah.
Yeah, he wore suits and he was young and he killed people. People were like, wow, what a charismatic, good looking dude.
Yeah.
He still
Wow.
killed.
What a guy. Yeah.
Do you think this movie would, in today's world, if it came out in 2022, like, and we have this true crime fixation now, do you think it would do well?
Ooh,
I mean,
that's a good question.
And as is, as
As
out
is?
there as
No.
is.
As is. I mean, I think like we talked about this movie that's coming to mind for me as far as like as extreme as it is on your podcast last year, The Sadness.
sadness, yeah,
Uh,
which is also really fixated on misogyny.
It is,
Very
and it's
much so, yeah.
very brutal and nasty and mean. And I mean, so I guess it could get made, but you know, that movie, I mean, its audience is like grindhouse freaks,
Yeah,
right?
I think
It's
it
like
would
Yeah.
do well among people who like
the
extreme
trash people like
horror.
us, you
Which
know?
honestly, we didn't. We just started it. We just like clicked the link and started watching it, and like, we realized like kind of a little while in that it was from the '90s. But like at first, I was like, wow, this is really nailing some like retro vibes.
And we're like, oh, it
I
is
was
retro.
not
Never mind.
new. Yeah, I was like, I would totally be into that. The music is really good.
The sound. We didn't even talk about the
Soundtrack
soundtrack.
is
The
No,
soundtrack
the
kicks
soundtrack
ass.
is so good.
It's so with the noir. I mean, it's obviously got the noir fucking horns going on in it. Like, oh, it's so good. I love the soundtrack.
The
Yeah.
weird synthy shit. It was such a weird
Yes.
synthy soundtrack. Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah.
It really puts you in the moment. Whether it's, 93, 2022 or whatever, do you think they went for too much in this movie? Because anything that they can think of, it seems like they put in this movie.
Well, it's actually
Yeah.
really faithful to the original crimes.
That's so
At
crazy
least
to me.
in my cursory research of it, which I'm not an expert. This is the first time I ever heard of this case. Okay, just a Wikipedia sleuth. Don't want to brag. But it's a lot of the shit that's in there is like straight up like that's how he killed, and that's how like he dismembered people. Yeah, he did necrophilia shit. Like he was a taxi driver and sometimes killed women in inclement weather. So it felt like a lot of it was just kind of faithful in that way.
Yeah, and I mean, I was thinking about like I was thinking about, because I was thinking about, like, when we first started watching it, like the first few minutes are like a flashback, or not a flashback, but like, kind of like an origin story where like he's a child, and you see, his home situation, you see like basically his stepmother, who I think they call his
so,
aunt in the subtitles, but
Yeah.
it's his
The
stepmother.
subtitles were wild.
Yeah, really treats him like garbage, and his dad lets him get away with everything. And you watch like one of his, I don't know, step siblings, one of his siblings, basically like offer him money to go like pull down sister's pants. And you like see him, he seems like kind of a blank, like he's just not speaking, and they're like, yeah, he sucks, he's like a dud. And but like at the last second he's like, yeah, give me that, and he like runs over and does it. And it feels like that pertains to the rest of the movie, in that like he is like, yeah, something's wrong with him, but first of all, like he was made to be that way by abuse, and then also like someone else kind of in a sense puts him up to it. Like it's, like misogyny doesn't originate with him,
right? And the
he's
neglect, like no one checks in on what he's doing. Like it's like he's doing this in a home with other people, and it's like, you guys are so, it's like, it's almost a commentary too on just like how separate, particularly that family, but that might be a larger commentary on like the family unit is not a unit. It's like separate people.
In the room he shares with his brother, and like no one noticed he was doing this stuff.
And that's also true. That literally is true. So the thing about the brother potentially like initially being a suspect as well, that's from the actual case. And so yeah, I mean, I love that. I think they are doing commentary, and I mean, like,
I feel like it actually ties it all together pretty well.
I think so. And I'm like weird about themes and nerding out. It's also just like a fun romp if you like kind of fucked up shit, like, so even if you don't care about themes and stuff, it's kind of still fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of straight and to the point a lot of times, but it does have some interesting themes in it, which kind of surprising for this kind of movie. So Candace, I'll start with you this time. So Dr. Lamb, the restored version, is out on unearthfilms.com for pre-order at see or no see. Dr. Lamb.
I'm gonna say C if you like a fucked up movie. I mean, it's I know you know who you are. You know whether you like a fucked up movie.
You know who you
That's
are.
right. That's right.
And Blake, what about you? Dr. Lamb, see or no see?
Dr. Lamb, you should, perfectly put. Yeah, if you're a fucked up weirdo, you should definitely watch this movie. I thought it was really weird. I thought it was part cop procedural, like a Law and Order mixed with like slapstick hyper gore. It was such a weird movie. It
has
was
some like Law and Order going.
Yeah, it is.
Absolutely.
I think it even kind of has like Law and Order music.
It totally
does.
It totally does. So nasty it up. Check it out.
Yeah, any movie where a cop puts a board up against someone's stomach and hits them with a hammer multiple times.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard not to recommend it. Except it's a little too close to real life too. So.
Yeah, right.